Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining, and welcome to today's event, Uprooting Christian Zionism, with the Green Olive Collective, Sabeel, and the Burin Land and Farming Cooperative. My name is Erez Bleicher, and I'm the Advocacy and Membership Director of the Green Olive Collective, an advocacy, human rights, and tour guiding center committed to a democratic future and the end of the ongoing displacement of Palestinians. We provide communities around the world with insight into the apartheid policies of the occupation and the resources to engage in meaningful advocacy in solidarity with Palestinians. Residents of Burin, as we will hear much more about from Ghassan shortly, have watched for years as Christian Zionist volunteers from the organization HaYovel collude with violent settlers in Har Bracha and other settlements to advance the seizure of their lands and the destruction of their olive orchards under the protection directly of the Israeli military. These volunteers, of course, represent a powerful network of Christian Zionist lobbies, nonprofits, and national organizations that are a linchpin of contemporary geopolitical support for the ongoing Nakba. Today, we will discuss the destructive impact of Christian Zionist initiatives in the Nablus District and the theological catastrophe they represent. We will speak with Ghassan Najjar of the Burin Land and Farming Cooperative and Omar Haramy of the Sabeel Liberation Theology Center to better understand the practical and ethical implications of Christian Zionism and how to counteract them. This event is part of our broader Sowing Solidarity campaign in partnership with the Burin Land and Farming Cooperative to counter HaYovel and their Greening Israel project by planting Palestinian olive trees instead of settler forests. And your contributions will help to rehabilitate olive groves and replant over 2,000 olive trees destroyed by settlers in Burin and surrounding villages over the last year. Every sapling counts. You can sponsor an olive tree now by contributing to the Sowing Solidarity campaign at sowingsolidarity.com, which I just put into the chat moments ago. Ghassan, who is with us now, our first speaker, is a member of the Burin Land and Farming Cooperative, a Palestinian agricultural collective and grassroots workers cooperative committed to developing agroecology as a means of actualizing food sovereignty, environmental justice, and mutual aid in the face of both Israeli military occupation and the privatization of communal resources. For years, Ghassan has organized creative direct actions and popular civil resistance in defense of his community and in support of farmers, students, and others in his community bearing the brunt of state violence. We are honored, Ghassan, to have you here with us to hear more about the important work of the cooperative and ways we can work in solidarity with Palestinian farmers. Omar, our second speaker, is the director of the Sabeel Ecumenical Palestinian Liberation Theology Center in Jerusalem, which strives to develop a Christian spiritual practice that centers the sanctity of the most marginalized, and to develop a Christian theological, communal, and liturgical perspective that uplifts the oppressed and calls for the transformation of society and the ending of inequality. We're honored to have you here, Omar, to hear more about the invaluable work of Sabeel and discuss together how to counteract what you refer to in your work as the Nakba of faith in Palestinian life. Ghassan, before I pass more to you to hear from you directly in just a moment, I want to share just a few minutes of a short documentary that you and the Burin Land and Farming Cooperative produced last year to document the olive harvest and the popular struggle of the community, so everyone here can have just a glimpse into the reality on the ground and have just a bit more of a full dimensional perspective. One moment.
بورين قرية فلسطينية تقع الجنوب من مدينة نابلس. بورين تشتهر بزراعة الزيتون والفلاحة بشكل عام. مساحة أراضيها ما يقارب 28 ألف دونم. 75% من مساحة أراضي بورين هي تحت سيطرة المستوطنين وجيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي. وبورين محاصرة من قبل 3 مستوطنات رئيسية، هي مستوطنة براخا اللي أنشأت عام 1984، مستوطنة تصهار اللي أنشأت عام 1982، وبؤرة استيطانية اسمها جيفعات رونيم اللي أنشأت عام 1999. بورين تعاني بشكل مستمر من قبل هجمات المستوطنين وخاصة على شجرة الزيتون.
وعندنا زيتون حوالين البلد، ونحاول نكسب رزقنا من موسم الزيتون. كل سنة مرة، يعني في السنة مرة بيجي الزيتون، بيتعب الواحد عليه، بحرث وبنكب وبزبل، وعلى أساس إنه في السنة يحصل على يعني بدنا نحكي اقتصاد المنزل يعني. بس للأسف يعني عندنا ظروف سيئة في قرية بورين. إحنا محاطين ب4 مستوطنات للأسف هن أسوأ مستوطنات في المنطقة، إسهار وبراخة وبركة. وعندنا كمان حاطين نقطة في نص في منطقة اسمها مربعة. الجيش بمنع الناس تروح وتيجي على كيفهم. وضعنا كثير سيء، الناس بطلت اقتصاد صفر، بدنا نكون تحت الصفر. يعني احنا مبسوطين في الأرض، بدنا نزرع في الأرض وبدنا نكلع وبدنا نعمل، بس للأسف اليهود كثير مانعيننا، مسيطرين على أراضينا. الشجر اللي نزرعه بالليل بفوت المستوطنين بيقطعوه بيحرقوه، يعني عايشيننا في رعب، عايشيننا في حالة نفسية سيئة.
احنا هون في داخل القرية بنعاني معاناة كبيرة في مستوطنات، في لنا 4 قطع موجودات هناك، ما بنقدر نوصلهن ولا بنقدر نخرطهن ولا نسوي فيهن أي شيء. حتى عم نسوي إنه نحرثهن ما بنقدر، لأنه إذا بشوفوا واحد طلع فوق بنزلوا عليه المستوطنين وبتهجموا عليه وبقتلوه، والجيش بكون جنبهم. إحنا بنتعرض دائما للاعتداءات المستوطنين علينا، وبنزلوا على المزارعين بضربوهم. في لي قطعة فوق في تحت المستوطنة تصهار، بخرط أنا وابني وأولاد البلد. طلعت فوق على الجبل ولا هم نازلين حوالي 10 ملثمين، كل واحد معاه عصاي، ومحرومين إنه نطلع على أراضينا. وبنتمنى إنه نطلع على أراضينا نحرثها ونزرعها ونخرج زيتونها. وهاي منانا، يعني صار هاي مني لكل إنسان إنه يطلع على الأرض ويحرثها ويدير باله عليها ويخرطها.
خسرت ما يقارب 16 ألف شجرة زيتون من قبل اعتداءات المستوطنين من حيث حرق وتدمير وقطع، وحاليا بقوموا بتسميم شجرة الزيتون من خلال المواد السامة. وهذا الشيء مش بيؤدي فقط لقتل شجرة الزيتون، أيضا إلى قتل التربة بشكل تام، حتى أنه الفلاح الفلسطيني ما يقدر يرجع يزرع مرة أخرى.
احنا في إلنا أرض عند مستوطن براخة، كنا نخرط أنا وابني الكبير اسمه مهران، عنده أولاد طبعا وبده يشتغل، بده زيتون وبده زيت لأولاده. يعني شو عارفين أوضاع كثير سيئة. احنا بنخرط وتعبنا في خرطهن، هجموا علينا الجيش ومنعونا وحجزونا لمدة 4 ساعات، أخذوا الفرش تبعنا وكبوا زيتوننا. وهاي أرضنا وهاي حياتنا وهاي قاعدين نخرط في زيتون. ما بنصدق وإحنا نخلص يودن العصر ونروح خايفين يهجموا علينا، كأنه الواحد صار يعني يجيب لقمة عيش ولاده في رعب.
أنا محروم.
So with that introduction, I'll pass it to you, Ghassan, to introduce yourself further and share who you are and more about the work that you do.
Okay, thank you so much for having me in this event. I really appreciate that. This event will kind of focus about some organization who working with the settlers. First, my name is Ghassan Najjar. I'm from Burin. I am one of the cooperatives called Land and Farming Cooperative in Burin. Some people say to me like activist, but I see myself as a freedom fighter. So this is the difference now between the activist and the freedom fighter. So I think Burin, as who's come to Burin and leave the situation, even just in olives harvest, you know how the Burin people is suffering by the settlers and the army. Especially like some of the people thinks like the suffering coming after October 7, and this is not true at all. Before October 7, we was living in the suffering. Now, after October 7, the suffering become like more clear above the table, and people start seeing by them eyes, not like just hear about the suffering. Burin, since 2004 until now, lost more than 17,000 olive trees. And this is the terrible thing that's happening for the small village, just 3,000 people living into. And we have just 28,000 dunums, 75% it's like area C. Now I can say to you like Burin 100% it's area C as they think, because like the 25% of the land the soldier easy can make in military area zoo, close military area zoo for 24 hours or like more than that. The situation in Burin it's like more complicated and complicated. But the good things like in the village here in Burin and other village, not just in Burin, we staying. We staying, we believe because we believing that this is our land. We don't have other land to go. We don't have like to think for other land. This is the difference between us and the settlers. Most of the time, people thinks like the Palestinian people, they just ask for the international people or the international law to protect us from the settlers. To be honest, no, we didn't ask about production. As a Palestinian people, we can protect ourselves. We are like more strong than you think about us. We are not weak people. We just need the people to think twice about what the meaning humanity, what the meaning human being. Some people who's coming here in Burin like to solidarity and to stand with the Palestinian people or farmers, they coming as a support or solidarity with us. But I always say to them, you have to be part of our struggle, because like the Palestinian case is not just for the Palestinian people, it's for the all freedom people around the world. And when I'm talking about the freedom people, I'm talking about the mind, how you're thinking about the occupation. Because the occupation like try hard to occupy your mind, not just like to stop you from movement or kill you or arrest you. No, many people inside the prison, they are freedom people because they're thinking out of the prison. They're thinking out of the box. And this is what we need when we ask about like solidarity and stand with us. We don't mean like you coming to protect us from the settlers or to pick our olives or like to help the farmers or bleed the land or planting some trees. No, you have to feel that you are part of this struggle. You have to feel that you are part of this suffering because you're talking about a human being. You're talking about like people lost everything, but they keep the dignity, the most important things. Because if we lost the dignity, that's mean we lost the land. Until now, we fight for our dignity because the land is related to our dignity. That's the difference between us as a Palestinian people and the settlers. The settlers not ready even to get injured about the land. But as a Palestinian people and the farmer and the fighter for freedom, we are ready to die for our land. So I think like all the organization whose work in the settlement, especially like the Christian Zionist organization, and this is like sometimes let you to think twice about how the Christian Zionist organization. Because as a Palestinian people, we try to divide it between Jewish and Zionist, and what the difference between Jewish and what the difference between Zionist people. Yani usually the Zionist people is like colonialist movement. And we work hard to tell the people, like we don't have any problem with the Jewish people. All our work just against the capitalism, against the Zionist, against the colonialist who try to take us away from our land, to try to kill us, to kill our children, to kill our like old man, old woman, and the youth, to kill even the hope. And like this, like easy, we figure out that there is like Christian people, call them Christian, Zionistic Christian people, who's working for the settlement. The funny thing is I am laughing because most of the people who's work in this organization, yani, they don't understand what the meaning Palestinian is. I will not say conflict because this is not a conflict between the Palestinian people and Israeli people. This is a colonialist because the conflict it's mean like two people have same equality, same weapons, and they kill each other. But here we see occupation, do the genocide, apartheid, ethnic cleansing, and try hard to take the Palestinian people from them identity. And they will not succeed. They will not succeed because they have enough education about our case, enough education about our issue. And you just use the Christian Zionist to make up for the occupation and say about them like they are cute and they are like a nice people and all of that. This is not what can happen because we can't like just close the sun from the sky. We can't close the sun from the sky. Everything will kind of be clear. All the people should like have the enough education about our struggle in Palestine. When I say our struggle, it's mean how we can defend our land and why we defend our land. This like organization called about themselves HaYovel, they work since like more than 3 years, I think. We discovered that they focus for the land near Bracha settlement. And they have a campaign about, it's called Green Israel. I don't know why green Israel. Yani, where is Israel to making it green, to be honest? Yeah, in West Bank or in 48? Where exactly you want to make Israel green? Yani, I think after like Gaza war, everyone see Israel like red, bloody people. Yeah, and you coming to making green. I don't think that's will kind of like be more make the occupation more nice or more cute, and say to the people this like the real face of the Israeli people who receive us and like hosting us and all of that. Every years they make a fund for the settlement of Bracha and its Har and Tamar. $4 million every year they bid like project for this like settlement, just like to plant grape. In 2 years or 1 year and a half, they built a wine factory. It's called the best factory from Holy Land. Yani, I didn't test yet if that's good or not because we need to check. This is our land. It's our right to check if that's good or not. Yeah. So I think like that's ridiculous when you read all this article or this people and they bring the volunteer, especially the youth, and they say about themselves they are a Christian coming from America, from California or from Miami to plant grape to Israel. Yani, that's like you like think twice. How like these people thinks about like the about what happened in Gaza, how many children killed in Gaza, how many children killed in West Bank. Yeah, and you coming to support the settlers, you're coming to support Ben Gavir and Smotrich who try hard to kill the child in the villages, and you're coming to support to kill to support the rabbi of its Har, his name like Shabira, who's writing a book. It's called A King. They bit the excuse why they should kill the Palestinian children. This is like the human things it's meaning for you as a Christian Zionist, and what the meaning Zionist, and what the meaning Christian for you. That's the problem, like to mix between the colonialist and the religion, and use the religion as like colonialist things in the ground. As a people, as a, like international people or Palestinian people, we should like have really campaign like to stop this ridiculous thing happen. What we doing? Like the land they're working, we have like order from the high court from the occupation. The court from the occupation, they say this is Palestinian land. After that, they're making military area zoo. After 6 months, they start planting. How you can plant military area zoo? By the way, the decision of military area zoo is said it's not allowed for the international people and the Israeli people to enter the land. It's not Palestinian. This is the military area zoo clause, close military area zoo. But what we see now, just Palestinian people not allowed to be in them land. They try hard, like to prevent us to go to our land. And this is, يعني, I think the big challenge for the Palestinian people and the big challenge for our leader as a Palestinian leader. I'm talking about the Palestinian Authority. Unfortunately, I didn't like trust them, but I have to talk about that. We have to stand like and to fight about like our right, to fight about our land, because it's enough. It's enough just we have the fighting in the Facebook and TikTok and I don't know and making some video. This is not a struggle. This is not a struggle. Really, this is not a struggle. Okay, we can make a media campaign, but after the media campaign, we need something in the ground. We need something happen in the ground. يعني unfortunately, I don't know if I say unfortunately it's correct word. This years they didn't come in HaYovel. They have some problem. I don't know what they have. Yeah, this is funny, like because they accuse me that I make a problem for them, and there's complaint about me to the police and the Israeli interrogation about that. But I don't know exactly what happened. يعني I don't know who's give the information that I make a campaign or something like that, but until now we didn't make any campaign. We thinking about campaign, and we say it clearly. Yani, we're not working under the table. We work up the table. Yeah, we're gonna make a campaign. We're not gonna be silent as a Palestinian farmer, as a Palestinian people, as a Burin people also. We will not be silent because this is our right. I think I don't know where the situation we're gonna go, but like as a freedom fighter here in the village or the villages around, we didn't think like about like the consequences. We think about one thing, to save our dignity. Because if we save our dignity, we will gonna save our land. And this is what we will gonna do. Even in other land, when the soldiers are making military areas, we have a campaign called if we can plant the land, we can drink coffee there. That means we will not leave our land, even if you kill all of us. We will kind of like plant our soil there. So that's like the big challenge now we have in the village. HaYovel work hard to take more land from Burin. Now they have a program in Masafir Yatta. They have a program in Itmar. They have a program in Itzhar. And you have to know something, Itzhar people, like the settlers of Itzhar, refuse to make a guest house for HaYovel in Itzhar. They make the guest house in Bracha. That's the insulting things. Like you coming to support people and the people refuse to receive you. They just take your money. They use you. That's it. I think like HaYovel people, it's most of them like really, really Zionist, not a Christian, because there's big difference between the religions and the Zionist movement. Also, we have Muslim Zionists, to be honest. Muslim Zionist. We have. We didn't say like we are like a holy people. No, we have. But like to see like Christian Zionists work for like settlers in West Bank, let's talk about like just a little bit about the law, the international law. This is a occupied land. If you want to talk about international law, that's I didn't believe it, yani. This is international, this is like occupied land. Where's the European Union? Where's the government? Why no one like talk about that? Why no one like work to stop this organization? But if any organization coming to work in Burin, especially in Area C, yeah, quickly they make Burin military area zoo, close military area zoo, and arrested everyone because they're working in Area C. But in the settlement, they're allowed to do what they want.
Thanks,
This is
Ghassan.
when we say like, yeah.
Finish your thought, and then just for the sake of time, I want to shift us over just to make sure there's time to talk more and hear more from you at the end and time to ask questions and talk. But yeah, please finish the last sentence. What were you saying?
No, I just I want to say one thing
Yeah.
more. Now most of the attack coming from the settlers, they are teenagers. Like Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, they use teenager people to attack the Palestinian people in the ground. Because in the Israeli law, they can arrest it like the teenager. If you like see the situation on olives harvest, and I think it's many people here in the event who was here in the olives harvest and know the situation very well, he will gonna tell. He will gonna tell you how like they're facing the child, 12 years old and 11 years old, who coming to attack the Palestinian people. But if anyone like speak one word with these settlers, quickly he will gonna get arrested like 6 months, minimum 6 months. This is the real ethnic cleansing and the apartheid colonialist occupation. Yeah.
Thanks, Ghassan. I think there's so much that's important in the things you shared about systems of power and the divide and conquer tactics that they use to wedge people apart, about the greenwashing and the false pretense of environmentalism used by organizations like HaYovel and also the Jewish National Fund, the JNF, and about the distinction between religion and a political project of dispossession, which we'll talk more about and think more about with Omar now. Before I pass to you, Omar, just so people have more of an idea of who we're talking about when we mean HaYovel, I'm going to show you quickly that go after this event and look at their website. They use very strong language, like bringing people, Christian Zionist volunteers, to the settlements to, in their own words, fulfill biblical prophecy. And here, two of their staff members run an Instagram page called the Israel Guys. So I'm just going to give you a taste of who they are and what they do.
This is Nate with the Israel Guys, and I'm here with Yishai Fleischer. Woo! We got a nice job today. We got the volunteer crew out here, and the orders are go take that hill. That's right. Actually, that's it. This is kind of an abandoned hilltop that we're coming in to clean up, reclaim, restore. That's right. We're restoring this ancient biblical site here. That's right. It's the heart of Judea. We're right over the biblical highway. We're in right south of Bethlehem, which is south of Jerusalem, which is the heart of Judea. And today we're beautifying this piece of land. And that's the way we reclaim it. Not necessarily with tools of war, but tools of beautification. That's right. And when we do that, people start to flow back in. Tourism flows back in. We're helping to unblock the blockages and let the bloodstream of people, Jews, Israelis, pro-Israel people like yourselves, walk this place, and that's the way we reclaim it today.
So troubling to say the least, and deeply upsetting. And here specifically is their website for their tree planting campaign in support of settlement in the West Bank, the Greening Israel Project website, with a short video explainer that they've made, which I'll share with you now.
The land of Israel has been devastated for 2,000 years, leaving the region bare of trees and life. Since Israel was reborn in 1948, however, the land has begun to spring back to life. Now, the time has come to plant trees in Israel's biblical heartland. For the last several years, we've been working with experts to compile a list of indigenous trees that will flourish in this region of the Middle East. We're using a unique water collection system that will ensure proper irrigation, making sure the trees will flourish in the rocky desert climate of Judea and Samaria. Planting a tree in Israel is an investment that will last for generations and is simple.
I think that's about all I can bear. But I think it was important
You
to
make
give
Muslim
people.
ban away. He said like 2,000 years ago. It's 3,000 years ago. You have to change.
Well, it's important to really understand the narratives that they're using, and I wanted to show it exactly so people can see really the pernicious political frameworks and ideology that's playing out. Of course, also completely erasing Palestinian life in historic Palestine before 1948.
They don't know the history.
Yeah,
Even like they don't know the history.
no, they don't, or they know and they present it falsely. In any case, I know, Ghassan, you have a lot to say after seeing those videos, but for the sake of time, though I know it's a cruel thing to do, I'm going to shift to Omar. Um, and and quickly ask you, Omar, to introduce yourself and share more about who you are, the work you do, and the invaluable work of Sabeel that you've been engaged in now for many years. Are you here, Omar? You should be able to unmute.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Omar Haramy. I'm a Palestinian Christian from Jerusalem. I'm the director of an organization called Sabeel. Sabeel is the Center for Palestinian Liberation Theology. We started in 1987 by a group of theologians and lay people, and we were addressing the topic of theology from a Palestinian perspective. What does it really mean to be a Palestinian, a Christian, living in Jerusalem? At that time, it was the beginnings of the first Intifada. People were rising up. What is the role of the Christian, of a Palestinian? And we were trying to address what does it really mean to be Palestinian and a Christian at the same time. Most people, when they think about Christianity around the world, they think Christianity started in the Bethlehem, in the Bible Belt, in North America or in Europe, in the Vatican. And actually, Christianity is very similar to Islam and Judaism. Its roots are in the Middle East, in Jerusalem, in the land that many refer as holy. The Bible has been used to justify the dispossession of the Palestinian people, although there has been numerous, or at least a number of attempts, I would say, messianic movements within Jewish communities trying to come to the land, to the Holy Land throughout the past centuries. But Christian Zionism is a very modern theology. Maybe less than 150 years, the most known Christian Zionism. And it predates by few years Zionism, Jewish Zionism, I would say, the Zionism of Herzl. Although many Christians do not believe, and many churches have clearly stated that Christian Zionism is a heresy, which means a false teaching, yet it has attracted a lot of attention and became popular in certain parts of the world. It is not the predominant way of viewing the Bible. And Christian Zionism is actually, if we do a proper diagnosis of it, we understand that there are different roots for it. Sadly, I don't think that we have enough time to go into all of the details. But for many Christians, we felt we had to choose being either Palestinian or being Christian, because being Palestinian, you cannot be a Christian when the Bible is being used to justify the dispossession of our own people. So we're not like observers of the situation, what was been happening in the Middle East or in Palestine and Israel. It's our grandparents, our families, it's our properties that has been being taken away from us. And we have been being dispossessed, and we are, and we cannot just justify it with the Bible. So that was the dilemma, and for many of us, we cannot. Many people tried, many of the Palestinians, this is why we say this was the catastrophe. There was an identity problem among, especially with Christian, Protestant Palestinian Christians who were reading the Bible very carefully, and they were very much exposed to Christian Zionism. Many felt that you had to choose, to pick, either be a Palestinian and then abandon the church and the faith and the Bible, or actually stick with the Bible but abandoning being a Palestinian. in a way, and just say that it is your will be done, Lord, and I will accept to be living. I will accept whatever God has chosen for us to live through, and there must be a wisdom. Palestinian Liberation Theology came to actually to explore: is this really the will of God? This is how we are being faithful to God, and it's an ongoing conversation. It's ironic because we look at videos about people planting trees in Palestine, Israel, the region. We live in the most fertile, what is called the Fertile Crescent. Anything grows. Wherever you go into Palestinian villages, towns, and so on, this is the Fertile Crescent. Every garden in a Palestinian village would say, "Oh, this almond. Nobody planted it. It just grew by itself because there was a bird who carried the seed, or the wind that carried the seed, or a cat ate, an apple, and then it went, it was nature cool, and now we have an apple tree." Whatever goes into the ground is immediately is grows. So it doesn't take lots of energy to plant stuff here. And this is where people were able to move from being hunter-gatherers to people who are able to develop, understand what does it really mean to be a community, and what is the relationship between us and the creator, or if there is a creator or not. So theology, the land, agriculture all came together in a conversation to make people live together, to make people um, 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 prosper together, for people to solve problems. Sadly, Christian Zionism is not this logic. Christian Zionism is a way to justify the disposition of people. It is to justify maybe the killing of people. It is not only Christians or Palestinians who are suffering from this false theology. It's many Jews. The concept is like, gather the Jews to this land. In one of the schools of Christian Zionism, it called for the Jews to gather into this land so that they can be they either convert to Christianity or be killed or massacred. That's like in a very short, dark explanation of it. So they're not like very much in favor of supporting Jewish communities, but it's many of them, I would say, but it is actually in bringing Armageddon and bringing the end of the world. So they're not really true friends for Palestinians or Israelis, for Christians or Muslims or Jews. And sadly, false ideologies are present in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And I don't mean it from a dogmatic perspective. I'm not here to come and say this is a true theology or a bad theology. I'm saying if the theology is helping us to be worse neighbors to one another, to justify the killing and the dispossession of one another, then this is what I mean by false and bad theology. It's making us fight. While I believe what defines a good theology in Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, or in any other religion, is how it makes us as individuals better people with our neighbors, and even with the enemies. How we can really overcome, challenges that we encounter with one another, to be able to behave better. So Christian Zionism is not a good theology. It doesn't mean that it is the people who harbor these theologies are bad people. They have been misguided. They believe that this is what God requires them to do. The same thing when people like behead people and say Allahu Akbar, and they're excited, they think that they're doing God a service. Or it's very sad. The settlers, religious extremist Jews who are going around and smashing windows of Palestinian cars, beating up old women and children, setting homes on fire, because they think they're doing what is actually good for their communities, what actually would please God, a God that they want to serve. There's sick ideas, and these ideas need to be fought, because this is not about a different opinion. These ideas are bringing harm to us, for the future, for the people, for the land. They're forcing us to become different people, people genuinely, we want to drink coffee under under the tree. I mean, this is what the prophets say. It's everybody should feel safe under their fig tree or under their vine and their fig tree. We should have conversations with one another, not be attempting to harm one another or to think about how to justify the disposition of one another.
Thank you, Omar. And I'm conscious of time, and I know you've said you have to leave right on the hour. So the precious time I want to use to talk with you, I want to ask you also to say a little bit more about the work that Sabeel does and what it has meant, maybe in your own life or over the last years, to be engaged in building a community of people on the ground and around the world who are committed to a Christian theology and practice and community building that supports liberation and justice.
I mean, briefly, what we try to do is one thing is to dispossess, to argue and to dispossess people from the arguments that they use to justify the oppression and the oppression of people based on scripture and religion. We have people who justify the killing of people based on scripture, prophecies, commandments, and so on. So we need to tell them that no, we believe that God is good and God wants us to be good neighbors with one another. So that's a big part of it. The other part of it is we help people to become foolish. There's a beautiful Franciscan prayer that says it is, may you be blessed by foolishness to believe that you're able to change the world. Religion can help people, make people like children. Let's make the world a better place. Let's, it's sadly now we think, you need to be foolish to believe that we can live in a world that there's no genocide, or to live in a world where there's no hatred and racism, to live in a world where there's no child being starved to death or dying from malnutrition, or to believe that everybody has the right for the right for education. It's the logic that it's controversial in the world that we live in, and sadly religion is being used just to say that people have the right, shouldn't worry about what gender they have, what color of skin they have, wherever they ended up being born in, or whatever sexual orientation they have, and so on, or what ideas they have. People shouldn't be afraid for who they are. Can you be? We're into the 21st century, and we're telling people it's okay to be you, and and God, in whatever sky God is not eager, is thinking about like beheading you or burning you or crucifying you. It doesn't want the faithful and the righteous to crucify you and burn you and bother you, because it's because you are who you are. Imagine that this is the job that we have to do. It's so sad that we are working as faith communities, that we need to really to fight these. I mean, it's the manipulation of religion and ideas. But we have to do it together, because it is happening. People are being killed. People are dying. I was yesterday. I was in some of the villages. I saw Palestinians and Israelis and internationals not picking olives, working in the land and so on. And when I looked at people's eyes, amazing people who are like activists, freedom fighters, whatever, normal farmers. They were terrified. They were afraid, because I was somebody who wasn't used to be with them in the community. And they wanted to see, is this person who's approaching is a settler, is angry? Am I going to harm them? I saw fear in the eyes of the people who are the righteous, of the people who are doing the good work. This is not right. We shouldn't be terrified and traumatized. There's few who are still believing that we can still work together. But to work together, we need to put our foot down. We have to say that it's whatever religion you have, you cannot justify the disposition of the Palestinian people. If you take out the Bible and religion, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, and you look at the story of the Palestinians, we've been dispossessed based on a book. With all due respect, I'm a person of faith, but it's about stories of a book that was written thousands of years ago. How can this justify uprooting Palestinian farmers and villages? Why do you think that a story with Abraham, our father, our ancestor, that it is of a promised land, gives the right to ethnically cleanse communities and to do it about promised land and so on? Is this the world that we want to live? And if we're going to be picking and choosing which prophecies and which stories that we want to abide with, aren't we under risk that that other stories will actually deprive us from our basic rights, that we might be the ones who are being burnt and suffering? Because maybe it is the stories of people with a bigger sword or with a bigger gun or with a bigger allies are different. I mean, it's whether Jews have suffered so long throughout history from anti-Semitism because Christians have used scripture and texts and teachings to justify the dehumanization and the persecution of the Jewish people. They've paid a very hefty price, the Jewish people. Christians have paid a hefty price from Christian persecutions. Muslims have paid and continue to pay prices that are very strong. And people of no faith have paid a price. Women have paid a price. People of the LGBTQ community have paid a high price and continue to pay a high price. Let's put an end to this. If either this God that we live with, that has created us to be in the image of God, to be good neighbors, good followers of one another, or we also have to come and put our down and say, this is not a God that we want to believe in. Are we able to challenge all powers, including what we find as sacred powers and voices, just to defend the people who are on the margins of the societies, the people who are suffering, the children who are starving, and the women who are exhausted? Are we able to do this as communities? If we're not able to do this, then it's said we are sinful. And if we're able to do this, we will find these stories in our scriptures as people who are prophets and righteous, and this is why we celebrate and we are part of the movement. Religion is a movement to defend the people who are on the margins, to defend the people who are the persecuted, the people who are the untouchable. This is what we understand from Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. It is, and every other religion, to stand for the people to be the voice of the voiceless. This is in our understanding who God is. If the gods that deprive people and burn people and destroy people, we refer to them as demons. And that is the truth. I cannot believe that there is righteousness in burning a child or bombing a village or abducting children as hostages or doing anything. Gods that justify these are either false gods or we have really got the whole story wrong.
Thanks, Omar. There's so much that's so difficult and painful, of course, in what you're sharing and the resources you're giving us to think through our relationship to these questions. But I do want to thank you for helping us to be more foolish here today and more foolish together going forward, echoing your own words. And I think there's so much that's so important in what you've said around also the roots of Christian Zionism in Britain and in the late 1700s and early 1800s, Christian millenarian movements. And we can see that, as you've pointed out, there are different times where theological and religious perspectives are fused together with state projects, with imperial projects. Some of us here today might be more or less familiar with the history of manifest destiny as a theological framework for conquest in what we sometimes call the Americas today. This is not the first instance of it happening, but in Jewish, Christian, and other contexts, it's integrated now into a geopolitical and political project of occupation. And thanks to you and to Sabeel for giving people the tools and frameworks to create a practice and theology and community that honors the sanctity of all life and all people and beings and centers the position of the oppressed, truly. So I know, Omar, you said you have to go shortly on the hour. So just to give a little bit of time, I want to give people a moment now to please send questions in the chat. And specifically, I have a question for Omar. Please send it in the chat now, and we can have one or two before, unfortunately, Omar has to go. And I think, Ghassan, we have a bit more time with you. But thank you both really for sharing all you have and being with us today and helping all of us together to move around these questions and towards liberation.
I see there's plenty of questions already.
I'm trying to look through. Respond to one that strikes you, Omar, please.
I mean, there's dozens. I just came across an email, a message regarding the LGBTQ community, and it's that the Palestinian community is not safe for the LGBT community. I mean, it's part of, if you speak with the LGBT community, there is no place that is safe, sadly, for the LGBTQ community or for many people who are on the margins. And I would say that maybe, and I don't think that we should come and say that the Palestinian community is a perfect community with no problems. There is an LGBT community in Palestine. Many of them suffer. Many of them are also vocal against the occupation. It is not dangerous if you're part of the LGBT community to come to Palestine. We've just hosted 2 delegations at Sabeel, and there were like 3 or 4 members of the LGBT community, and they were openly about it. It doesn't mean that the Palestinian community is open about it. But I mean, it's just to accuse that we are not a perfect community, like to justify the dispossession or a genocide is not really fair. I don't think that you can claim that the U.S. is a perfect community. There are many problems and acts of hate. It doesn't mean that people should suffer. I as a person, as Omar, as Sabeel, we have a single standard. We stand for human rights. We denounce any kind of violence and hatred against all people. This is fixed for us, regardless of and we start by critiquing our own communities, the church, and so on. And I don't think that it's really helpful in a conversation just to come and say that we are not perfect. You don't need to troll us on the chat. I would tell you, I am not perfect. I don't think anybody who is in the right mind would say that they are perfect. We are all we're far from perfect, but we are trying to be more in line with what we understand as being perfect, and that's standing for human rights, standing for the respect of one another, and we are on a journey on this. We admit we have many mistakes, and please, we are here towards creating a better future. Criticizing us is something that we welcome, but I don't think that this is really fair and part of a good conversation. We want people to be engaged with us in difficult conversations, and we're happy to do it, but it's not every conversation seems to be very positive.
Thanks, Omar, and I think it's important to say, of course, that there's no merited condescension or superiority that's possible coming from our societies in the EU, UK, US, North America, etc. Of course, power dynamics and oppression around gender and sexuality, race, class, etc. is rife throughout the world, and we all need to move together and support each other in our work. I see a question here in the chat from Isha Leisha, an organization I'm familiar with. And the person writing from that group said, "Thank you so much for these inspiring talks. Can you shed light on the mechanisms at work? Are Christian Zionists participating in the attacks on Palestinians? What exactly do they do for the settlers other than offer money? Do they purchase land, build sites? Does anyone know how much money is involved?" I have a few thoughts and responses, but Ghassan, maybe you're best able to say, do people participate in Christian Zionist volunteers participate in attacks? What do they do other than offer money to settlers? What are they doing on the ground that you can see yourself?
I think HaYovel, it's working for one thing. It's not just like about attack Palestinians. Like settlers and the army doing that already. All the work they do now, like they make like funding to make Israel green, as they said. That's mean every year they plant more than 100,000 of grape plant, and this is enough to stalling our land, and this is like more than the attack. Like when you see like people from outside Palestine, yeah, make a funding to support the occupation to take our land, and we just look at them. They don't need to attack us. We are already under attack. This is the real attack. When they're stalling our land, this is the attack. HaYovel is working for funding. Every year they fund around $4 million for Bracha, Itmar, Itzhar. Now they add Masafer Yatta, I think in Susia, or I don't know exactly where, in Masafer Yatta. And this is the dangerous things. It's like more dangerous than like they attack the Palestinian like physically. Yeah. And that's enough, I think. This is what they did.
I would just want to mention something that it's Christian Zionism is not like being a Christian and a supporter of Israel. These are two different things. There's many Christians who support Israel, who like Israel. There's people who like Argentina because of the food, because of the football teams, or so on. It's okay to be a Christian and who is a supporter of Israel. A Christian Zionist is when you support Israel unconditionally, regardless of human rights violations and actions for theological reasons. This is where you create a justification that Israel cannot be, as a state, as a country, cannot be conducting mistakes. This is what Christian Zionism, based on a theological understanding. These are two different things. So there's Christians who support Israel, that's fine. Who like to invest in Israel, that's fine. We're not against it. But when a Christian would go and support Israel in defiance of international law, human rights, and give unconditional support to Israel just because they believe that there's a divine plan or a logic of it, that becomes very problematic, because you are instead of following God, you are using God or appointing God to advocate for your own ideology or belief, and these are two different things. So we are not against Christians being supporters of Israel. There's millions and hundreds of millions of Christians and Muslims who support the Palestine and the people, and that's fine. It's good to have friends. We still are interested in making more friends, and being supporter of Israel doesn't mean that you're not a supporter of Palestine, and being an enemy of Israel doesn't mean that you're also a friend of Palestine. We're speaking about values and principles and teachings. If we believe that we stand by human rights and international law, these are the values that we cherish, then we should have a single standard, criticize Palestinian societies, criticize Israeli societies, American societies, international societies, criticize ourselves, our organizations, if we are not abiding with these values that we claim that we have.
Thanks, Omar.
Let me just have a comment, please. Maybe I disagree with Mr. Omar for that, because support Israel in this moment, it means support the genocide, because Israel is an occupation state. When we say like the Muslim Christian support Israel, it's okay, but it's not okay to support the settlement in West Bank. That's we have to think about that. Israel, it's occupation. And who support Israel now, who support the genocide in Gaza, and the genocide now, it's what happened in West Bank. We not agree that the people support Palestine and they should support Israel. We are under occupation. This is our land and we are under occupation. So I think most of the government support Israel, not because they love Israel. No, I'm sorry, they just don't want Israel to come back to Europe. That's it. So I think support Israel, it means support the occupation, because Israel is the occupation and we're living under occupation. And they support, like Israel, we support the Nakba, we support the genocide, we support the ethnic cleansing, we support like the apartheid, we support the checkpoint, we support like the settlers who attack the Palestinian people here. No, I'm not agree with that.
Thank you for saying, and thank you for registering that. And I think, of course, that this back and forth touches on some of the fundamental questions we have here, where we unpack what do we mean by support? What does Christian Zionist support for Israel mean, and whose benefit is it for? Unfortunately, I think we'd have to take much longer than we have now at the end of this wonderful conversation and event to really get into what we mean by the statements we say in full and the set of frameworks we have. But thank you for saying Ghassan, and thank you for saying Omar. And because we're just slightly over time now, I think unfortunately we will have to end there for today. But I guess I want to ask Omar, do you have, if you're still here, do you have any last word you want to say, just one sentence, about the importance of solidarity and working for liberation? And then Ghassan, any last word you want to say? Omar, are you still here?
Yeah, I am here. I don't disagree with Ghassan, but I think we're using different terminologies and different understandings. It's if I have an alcoholic friend that I like, and in a way to support him, I don't buy him alcohol. It's not because I want to punish him. It's actually I do good when I don't buy and I don't invest. If I have a friend who's rude and is not behaving well, and I call him out and hold him accountable, I do it. If I have a friend who is not, who's violent and aggressive with his family and with his kids, and I care for my friend, I will even use law enforcement to call him out and have him in prison. This is how, love is not only spoiling people and working with them hand in hand. It is sometimes when you boycott them, hold sanctions, and work with them. So it's just different words of how we are doing it. Because it's actually, if I give a friend of mine who's alcoholic more alcohol, and I give him keys for a new car to drive, I'm not really a good friend. My final words is that it's time to be tough. It's time to hold people accountable, whether it is we do it with love through conversations, whether we put pressure, whether it is we protest. Human rights violations must stop. There are not only there's war crimes that have been committed, there's an ongoing genocide, there is a lot of hate and suffering, and this is extremely dangerous and threatening the lives of millions of people, not only Palestinians, but Palestinians, Israelis, and all of us as human beings. We need to make the world a better place.
Thanks, Omar, for your time, for helping us to be foolish together. And Ghassan, I pass to you. Is there any last word you want to say or share?
And I think last word we have to say that we are fighting for the freedom. We're not fighting for the peace, because there is no peace under the occupation. Our thought that we need to live without occupation. For that, we are fighting. Some people think like the peace, it's like easy things to coming under the occupation. No, the peace meaning you have to live under the occupation shoes, and we will not gonna accept that. We have our dignity, and we will gonna fight and fight and fight until we have our freedom, and we will not like think it twice about the consequences, about what happened when we talking or when we fight about our freedom. Because if we live without dignity, fuck this life. We don't need it. We don't need life without dignity. To be honest, we're fighting for our dignity. We're fighting for our land. This is what we're fighting for. For it. We're not fighting for like just to have some funding from people who just want to plant olives in Burin, or do some project here or some project there. No, we are freedom fighter. We have to fight for the freedom, not to fight for the peace. For me, I will gonna say it clearly. Fuck the peace under the occupation. I will not believe it, and we will not do it that. We fight for the freedom. Freedom, just nothing else.
Ghassan. And we all learn how to work together for freedom and to dismantle occupation and move together towards justice. With that, and with so much more that there needs to be leaned into and worked around and work to do, we unfortunately have to close for today. Real thanks to you, Ghassan, and real thanks to you, Omar, for taking the time and speaking with us and giving us resources to move forward, and supporting the Sowing Solidarity campaign with Ghassan and the Burin Land and Farming Cooperative to rehabilitate orchards destroyed by settlers, and try as a global community to support farmers on the ground as part of direct action across borders. Thanks also to everyone here on behalf of the Green Olive Collective, Sabeel and Burin, the Burin Land and Farming Cooperative, for joining this event from around the world. As I just mentioned, and as I mentioned at the start of this event, your contributions for today's event will support the Sowing Solidarity campaign to counter HaYovel and counter their Greening Israel project by planting Palestinian olive trees instead of settler forests, and will raise funds as part of the campaign to rehabilitate olive groves and replant over 2,000 trees destroyed by settlers in arson attacks over the last year. You can give at sowingsolidarity.com, and please watch for updates in the coming weeks. We are also in the coming month launching our end of the year campaign to support on the ground agricultural projects in the West Bank and the work of the Green Olive Collective, working for policy changes in the EU, UK, and US. Please keep an eye out for that. And anyone who wants to join with us, the Green Olive Collective, on the ground and meet with Ghassan and Omar in person is welcome to do so, and join our upcoming missions and tours advancing solidarity across borders and bringing people to join on the ground with human rights defenders. Anyone interested can find more information at greenolivetours.com. So with that, real thanks to everyone here. Hope everyone here has good days, and we send all of our support to everyone around the world calling for justice. We will send a recording of this event tomorrow and hope to see all of you soon. Much thanks, and have a good rest of the day. Thanks, Ghassan. Thanks, Omar. Thanks to all.